Welcome to Mark Hummel's Harmonica Party. I'm here with Mark. I'm Jeff Fargen, the producer, and sort of behind the scenes where I spend most of my time. But today, it's one of the rare occasions where Mark and I have a chance to get together. And he's got a new CD out, and we're going to talk about that. So, the new CD, Mark. I was with you a year ago when we played Tahoe, played Sacramento, and you had an incredible band. And then I went with you down for one day of your recording session with those guys. So,
thanks for reminding me.
So that band was it generated a lot of buzz when we went places because you explained who you had on the tour.
Well, I try to always have great bands, but in this situation I had Junior Watson on guitar, I had Kedar Roy on bass, I had Wes Starr on drums, and I also had Brent Banderstadt on the keyboard.
Just for the record, though.
Just for the record.
Yeah. He wasn't on the tour.
Right. So it was just a quartet on the tour.
It was pretty exciting to go out with you guys because that's kind of pretty much an all-star band.
It is indeed.
It's a bit of a super group with
it is.
With Wes and Junior and you.
Yep.
And Kedar as well.
I agree. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, and the buzz. I can remember you played in Sacramento, and I could remember like 6 people showing up, and they were sitting 4 feet from Junior and just staring at his hands the entire night.
Yeah, Junior's a real guitar icon of my generation. I'd say, I've been really fortunate that I've been able to play with guys like Junior Watson and Anson Funderburgh, Steve Freund, all these really great guys.
How do you select those guys? Because we've talked before about when you go out on the road with bands, and we'll get back to that. But how did you pick these guys, and did you know you were going to record with them when you selected them for the tour?
God, I can't. The weird thing is I really don't remember very well. I know it was only a year ago, but my memory is so bad. I mean, I look over my calendars, and I'm just like, wow, how did I do that? Well, because it's like I'm just working nonstop, and I'm almost 69, so.
And since the pandemic, right after the pandemic, when things were slow, is when we started this thing.
Right.
And we were seeing each other weekly, often, and texting daily as we were putting this all together. Mm-hmm. Now,
I can thank you for making this happen.
No, don't worry about it. That's nothing.
It was your idea.
Well, my point is that since that, you have just hit the road.
Yeah.
And now I see you about once every couple months. And we talk on the phone, and we have emails, and you send me the footage.
Right.
But
give you crap.
Give me crap, which I deserve.
You don't.
If the audience, knew the mistakes I make that I correct before they see them, they'll never know. But you've just been endlessly touring.
Yeah.
You've been to Europe a number of times.
Yeah.
You've been back east, 3 times this year already?
Is it 3? No, I've been in the South. We went down south in April. We went to the East Coast in July. And then in August, we went to the Midwest.
And in the spring, you were in the Midwest.
No. The spring was when I went down south.
Okay.
That was pretty much the Southwest down to Louisiana.
Right.
That's what we did.
Because I know you were in the upper Midwest. You were in Minnesota and you were in Wisconsin.
That was what I just did.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I'm getting ready to do basically a California tour that's going to be with Anson and Kedar and Bob Welsh on keys and guitar and a guy named Ed Mann on drums.
Another super group with Bob coming in. How when you... Because a guy like Bob, who's in how many bands?
Too many,
but big touring bands.
Yeah,
the Thunderbirds.
He's with the Thunderbirds, and he's with Elvin. Big fun trio.
And
Musselwhite.
And Musselwhite.
Yeah.
So how do you manage a calendar to get him?
It's difficult.
Right. So is he just when you grab him, you can grab him?
Yeah, I mean, I always call him way ahead of time. Like he's doing the blowouts in February. 2025, and I nabbed him for this time period. He did the blowouts in, I think he did them this last February too. The one we just did. I can't remember. Yeah, no, he did. He did them along with June Core and Randy
Right.
on bass. Yeah.
So let's get back to the record. It's True Believer is the name of the record, and you recorded it at Greaseland with Kid Anderson.
Well, I did 2 sessions. I did one in July last year, the one we're talking about with Kedar and Junior and Wes. And then in October, I went back in with Wes. Who did I have? Wes, Randy, Bermudes, Billy Flynn on guitar, Bob on keyboard, Bob Welsh. And then I had Oscar Wilson sing on a song. He does the opening song. And then Joe Beard, who's played a lot with me and is on the Way Back album. He sings the last song.
And you did a tour with those guys. You brought those guys on tour with you.
Yeah, they were on tour in October last year.
Right. Oh, okay.
And we did the Redwood Coast Music Festival up in Eureka. And then we did dates down here.
Right. Yeah, I saw you guys in Berkeley with that lineup.
Yeah. So we ended up doing that as a recording session as well. I mean, you know, what I try to do is if I bring somebody like Billy Flynn out, I really try to get him in the studio. So this is like the 3rd time I think I've had him in the studio out here.
So let me ask you a question that occurred to me recently when I was listening to the radio and there was a cover of a song. You're playing originals and cover tunes. When you select a cover tune to play on a record, do you have to ask anybody or get permission? How does that work?
No, all you have to do when you do, I mean, I did in one situation, I did an Elvin Bishop song on there, and I called Elvin up in advance because he had come down, sat in with us in Marin at this place, and I heard him do the song, and he had an extra verse in there, and I was like, I want to do your song, and he sat down and recorded the extra verse for me, which was very nice.
And then that got
that got injected into my version, but when he did his original version, he left that verse out. Maybe he hadn't written it yet. I don't know.
So, but other people how does the publishing and all that?
Oh, that's all that's all gets done through BMI.
Okay.
So in other words, what you have to do is you have to sign up everything through BMI, and then they approach the publisher, and there's a percentage that the publisher gets paid for your recording
all back
of it.
Channel stuff that you don't worry about.
I don't worry about it.
Okay.
No.
Now, is that the case if you want to do any song, or are there songs out there that, or artists out there, or writers that don't allow their songs to be covered?
Most people aren't going to turn down royalties.
Right. Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I didn't even think about that. I don't think I need to go to the people whose songs I've recorded. I don't think, but I could be wrong. I think that what happens is as soon as you do a song, you put the publisher and the author's name on it, it automatically gets channeled in through BMI because, you know, the DJs that play it gotta put, you know, whose song it is and so on.
And if anybody doesn't know what BMI is, they're like a
Broadcast
clearinghouse.
music, yeah.
They're a clearinghouse of music coming,
Well,
and they monitor all that.
it's all the publishers and the authors.
So
everyone registers.
So when radio stations play it or anybody plays it, the money comes to BMI and then they distribute it.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And that's also true with a thing called, what is it called? Sound Exchange, I think, which is like a radio thing where they pay radio play money to the artist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this leads me to, you're playing the Blues Cruise this year.
Right.
And you're going to Mexico or wherever.
Well, we're going to the Caribbean.
The Caribbean.
Yeah.
And this is being a blues cruise with all these blues artists on there. Is there ever a time when bands are playing the same song?
You know, I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
Because there's so many songs. I mean, Got My Mojo Working or Stormy Monday. Those songs get played to death by, you know, just about every blues band except for mine.
So you'll be the outlier with no...
I generally don't do covers that are kind of done to death.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of been my mantra, but But, you know, I mean, I'm doing a little Walter tribute. You know, I could do something like Juke, which is definitely a standard, or My Babe. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't.
But those are, like Stormy Mondays, even a non-blues fan knows Stormy Mondays.
Right.
Everybody has recorded that
Yeah.
in a variety of different
the Allman Brothers
genres.
did it. And,
Yeah.
you know, so many people have recorded it.
Right.
Yeah.
T-Bone Walker song,
Right.
right?
It's T-Bone and, yeah.
Okay.
Bobby Bland had a big hit with it.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal song. So, the record, you had these guys. Was the little tour sort of just a way to get tuned up and get in these guys, and then when you brought them to the studio, you guys were just...
That was pretty much it, yeah.
So those were your rehearsals.
Yeah. So do it again from the last verse. Okay.
Oh, just the last part of the last.
Right. No, but the only thing the only thing I'm asking you to do is just learn that one lick, just the one lick. Okay. Maybe not tonight, but learn it tonight. That was, I think, the second or third tour that I'd done with Junior at that point. And so we already pretty much had a handle on the songs. I'd done some LA gigs with Junior, and then I did a tour up here in November of the year before. So I think it was like springtime, November, and then came back in January. I mean July.
And then in the production, so that was at Greaseland. We could talk a little about Greaseland. How unique an environment that is.
It is very, yeah.
It's unique. I mean, for me,
hopefully you can show some footage.
Yeah, I have some footage. You'll see some stuff of Greaseland. But when I first walked in there, I was a bit shocked.
Mm-hmm.
But the more time I spent there, the more I can see how this can be kind of an inspirational place. He's got so much stuff in there that has history. Everything on the wall.
He's got guitars. Yeah. He's got, posters. He's got furniture everywhere.
I asked him.
He's got trash everywhere. It's a mess.
I asked him one day. I said, "Is anybody still?" I said, "Do they still make B3 organs? Can you still buy one?" He goes, "You can buy one. I got one in the garage. I'll sell you right now." I
right.
Said, that's
the thing. Garage. He's really like kind of a used instrument shop in a way. He's got so many amplifiers, literally stacks of amps.
Yeah.
Walls full of guitars.
Right.
A garage full of stuff. I mean, he's just, it's so.
But
so over the top.
The sound that he's able to get out of that facility is phenomenal.
Well, a lot of it is him.
Yeah.
It's really Kid. I mean, Kid is the guy that's, and we got video from Greaseland.
Well, there's a couple episodes you have with Kid where you
with
interview
Kid and
yeah.
June and just Kid and Wes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the bottom line is that he's such a good engineer, and he's so quick, and he's so on it. He's literally editing as you're recording. There's very few guys that are on par at the level that Kid's at.
Right.
In terms of just the efficiency and speed and editing that he can do on the fly. I mean, I've got a lot of those on those videos, stories about some of the crazy stuff that we've been through where, things almost didn't happen, but he was able to save the day.
Now, as a producer, engineer, sort of his job, what he's doing, do you think that because he has a vast knowledge of the blues, does that knowledge of the blues, do you think that helps in him getting the best out of you guys?
Well, I think that he understands what it is we're going for, and that's kind of the bottom line with an engineer, because you would not believe how many times I've been in the studio that some guy goes, "Oh, that kick drum mic needs to be way back in there," or no, we don't want any room mics in here, that kind of thing. So he's very aware of all the alternate recording techniques that are necessary to get varying sounds, because there's the whole thing of, like, with recording roots music, you kind of want to get an airy type of sound. You want a certain amount of what do they call it? Ambience.
You don't want an ambient sterile sound, like a sound.
And a lot of guys, the guys that do everything close mic'd, they don't get the ambient sound that you want in the recording.
Because blues it's such a different experience live. And it seemed to me as an outsider watching that process that you guys down there and he were really doing what you could to capture the live feeling of the music.
Right.
You weren't just overdubbing every single instrument.
No, and that's the thing about Kids is you really kind of keep the overdubs to a minimum. I've done recordings in there where I almost can overdub because I was in the room doing my live vocals with the band. But I mean, I have a recording session I know I did and I've never released it, but we ended up doing some overdubbing on it, even though I was in the room doing. I mean, it was just a matter of recording it so close to the original vocal that it could work.
So let's talk about the album, True Believer. Song selection. How do you go about doing that?
I mean, I went in with the covers that I wanted to do. I did, I think, more covers on the Junior Watson part of the session than I did on the Billy Flynn part. And I think that was mainly because I knew what I was looking to have Junior do on the guitar. So I picked an Otis Rush tune that I really enjoyed doing with him, and a B.B. King number I really liked doing with him, or the Elvin one, What the Hell. We did one of R.W.'s numbers, Jackknifed, which I'd been doing with him. What else? We did the two Little Walter numbers, Who and the Toddle. And the Toddle, you even had a clip of me and him working that out.
Right.
So it goes like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. It is slow, yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. answer you. That's what part of the song. See, you go like this. Play your part.
Okay.
No, just there.
Make this a sound check.
Yeah, we can try the sound check. I'm just trying to figure it with him.
It's. I answer you on all of it.
Right,
so you're
right,
playing
right.
my part.
Well,
Like
hang
that.
on a minute.
So
hang on a
you
minute.
go do 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 da 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 da. Go ahead. Start there. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm having a tough time with this shit. Man. I want to make this doesn't go. Go ahead.
Okay.
There you go. A.
Oh, you're going right. Okay, you're
That's
going
what
right into
that's what it
there. All
is,
right.
man.
Yeah.
On the record, I'm telling
Yeah.
you. If it goes off, it's
I
that's
know,
the
I
hit.
know,
Somebody
I
should
know.
cue
And then
that.
after those parts are
Change
done,
to
you
the-
can go nuts. 'Cause
Right,
it's on
right.
one chord.
No, I know.
So that's
You
what
want
it
to
is.
cue that change today, Junior?
What's that?
I think unless somebody cues that, it's going to be kind of a
You
mess.
can cue it.
Yeah, just signal. Give one of those guitar drops, guitar neck drops.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was really a matter of just kind of fine tuning everything by the time we got to the studio, and on the other session, the one that I did with Billy and Wes and Randy and Bob, that was something where I had more songs that were either originals that I wrote or originals that RW wrote. I had, I think, one that I had written a long time ago with Carol Perry in there, Mr. Two-Thirds, and I had done a version of that actually even with Kid that I never used. It ended up just being kind of something that's in the can, but I never used that version of it. So I kind of revamped that a little bit. That's a lot of times what I do is during the pandemic, really what happened was I had so much time on my hands that I ended up really just kind of scrolling, on my phone, these ideas that I would have and putting them down. A lot of them were just bits and pieces of things. So I ended up working on some of those with my friend Phil Marsh, with one of them, the High Time for the Devil song. That was one I worked on with Phil. RW gave me Shufflin' Days, which he wrote. Jackknifed is one I worked on the bridge with him, but I'd been doing it for 5 years or so. There's another one called Ghosted, which I really like, and I think I can't remember if me and RW worked on that at all, but I know we definitely worked on one called Headed for a Heartache together.
Burning bridges in the end. World of trouble, fair weather friends. It's too late now to take things back. Spun out sideways, the ceiling goes flat.
And then I have one called little electric car that I messed around with, both, I think, maybe a little bit with RW, more with this guy Joel Astley, and then I just kind of put the finishing touches on it.
And it's R.W. Grigsby.
Yes, R.W. Grigsby.
Who played in your band.
Who played in my band for 12,
for a long
14
time.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a great, great songwriter. And I'm actually going to do a podcast with him.
Oh, good.
He's somebody that's really gotten into Americana heavy, and he's become a really fine Americana songwriter.
Did you record more songs than are on the album? Do you have...
I don't think so. I think I pretty much used everything that I recorded. No, I take that back. We did record some more stuff. There's some stuff from the second session we recorded that I haven't used yet. Yeah. And may use and may not.
Is that something you might release at another point?
Maybe. I mean, they were just kind of
Maybe
more,
for our Patreon?
Yeah, I mean, they were things like, for example, we did one with Oscar, besides the one that High Time for the Devil. We did one that I think, I forget, there were a couple that we recorded. I don't know if we'll ever use them or not. I mean, what determines it for me is, where things fit on a record. You really have to be very aware of grooves and what's original, what's not original. I mean, I try to always have some songs that I wrote or RW or somebody like that in there. I mean, eventually I'd like to, I mean, there's other people that have sent me stuff that I'd like to record, that are friends of mine and do some of their songs as well. But I seem to keep coming up with ideas. So, that's the important thing.
And the order of the songs is something that you spend time.
I always spend
thinking
time
about.
Oh yeah,
what I'm going to hear next. 'Cause it flows from the last.
Absolutely, it's got to flow in the same way that when you do a live set, your set has to flow the same way. You want to have a certain kind of momentum. I mean, it was funny, going out with the band on the last couple tours. We started getting into this thing of, coming up. I would bounce things off Anson and Bill Stuvey about, what are we going to do on this set to improve it? Because, there was an example where we played a festival and we came out and I kind of put things in a certain order, and it sort of fell a little bit flat. And so we ended up kind of retweaking the set after that, and we noticed a real difference in how people responded. Because you can't do too many of the same things in a row. Right. Or it does tend to kind of...
be monotonous.
Yeah, it just puts people to sleep.
Right.
So
that opening tune is a...
The opening tune means a lot, yeah.
I saw Springsteen 3 times in 2023. And it was interesting because he changed his set. But when he came to San Francisco, he opened with a song that I was not familiar with, and the crowd wasn't necessarily familiar with it, and it wasn't the sort of blow the doors off opening. It was a very sort of medium to low tempo.
Yeah.
Even him, with these loyal fans, it took him about 5 more songs for the audience to catch up.
That can happen.
They were just staring, and I've seen a lot of his shows. I've never seen an audience that he had to get back.
Right.
And it was interesting to watch.
That's reality. I mean, in other words, it doesn't matter how famous you are, you have to find a way to grab the audience.
Right.
And it can be a tricky thing. I mean, and being an artist is kind of like you always want to do this thing where you change things up and you don't do the same show night after night. I mean, I noticed it working with a lot of the old cats. When I'd work with old guys, they had a definite way of doing it where you'd kind of go, well, I know he's going to do this song, I know he's going to do that song. But part of it, and I'm realizing as I'm getting older, part of that is that thing of that you want to go out there and do songs people know. You want to go out there and do songs in a certain order that excites people, but you also want to remember the damn song.
Right.
Because you get to a certain age and your memory is not as good. So someone says, hey, play this, and if you can't remember the words, you don't really want to do it.
And I've sat behind the stage at some shows recently, and I've noticed the teleprompter is a prominent piece of equipment now.
Right,
That
with
sits
older
on the
audience,
stage that
or
looks
older artists.
yeah, that looks like a monitor, like a sound monitor, but it's really the teleprompter. And in some of the bands, every single band member has a teleprompter so they can keep track of what's going to come next.
Right,
And-
what songs are next.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't used to use set lists near as much, but now that I'm kind of changing out band members here and there, I have to use them. You know, but I have to say, when I'm on the road, I'm almost always changing my sets.
Well,
know, almost always.
I've seen you
Yeah,
hundreds of times probably.
Yeah.
Back in the days before I met you, and I used to go see you once a month at the club down the street.
right, at Armando's.
Yeah, and I've never seen you play the same set twice, even in 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, generally I don't.
Right.
You know, and I'm always trying to add new songs in. That's really important to me, is to add new songs. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of artists and all they ever do is recycle the same song. Sometimes on record after record, you'll see them, you know, like, wow, they're recording that again. You know, it's always a little surprising to me to do that.
So let's talk about you had Wes on drums. What does Wes bring to this group that another drummer doesn't? What is his style? How do you pick Wes for certain things and maybe June for something different?
Yeah, well, I can say this about Wes. I first got hip to Wes in, I want to say, 1986, 87, when I heard the very first Sam Myers and Anson Funderburgh album. And it was called My Love Is Here to Stay, and Wes played drums on it. And man, right out the gate, I noticed his drumming immediately. I didn't really even know who he was. Turned out later that my brother was working with his wife at the time.
Oh, really?
In Austin, yeah.
Wow.
But the funny thing was, I heard his drumming on that, and I said, that's a guy I want to eventually work with. So I got to know him in the 80s or early 90s, and we became, you know, somewhat friends and stuff, and we stayed in touch. And then when I started playing with R.W. Grigsby, they grew up together.
Oh, that's right.
And so that was really the connection to how we started working together on a regular basis, was that Wes kind of said to R.W., hey, if Mark ever wants to hire me, I'd love to do some stuff. So 2010 is when we started doing tours together. And that became kind of the synthesis for Golden State, was that by 2012, you know, he actually asked Anson, and I had little Charlie working with me at that time, and I asked Anson about the idea of doing a group with little Charlie. And so that was the genesis for that, was that we had RW and Wes playing together, who had been playing since high school off and on. And then we had Anson Funderburgh and little Charlie Beatty on guitars, who had really never worked together. I remember Anson said to me when I asked him about little Charlie, he goes, you know, I've known Charlie forever, but I think we've only said 2 words to each other in 20 years or something. So, you know, it was like, it was just luck that it all worked out.
But these
and
guys,
there was chemistry.
But these guys are so good. They're gonna find their niche and add what they add.
Right.
And you knew that.
And I did know that. Well, the main thing I knew is I knew that Charlie and Anson had both had bands that had harp players as the front guys. You know, both Sam and Rick Estrin were the front guys in their bands. So I knew they knew how to play with a harmonica player, and that was crucial. And then it just so happens that their styles were divergent enough, but Anson is such a great kind of, he really lays a foundation for everything over the rhythm section. And so that gave Charlie room to do his thing, and it was a kind of friendly competition between those guys on stage. And it was, you know, they were really different enough guitar players, it really worked.
So
we tried it later on when Charlie left, and it was not the same.
Oh no! So the
just
Lone
wasn't
Star
the same.
Band is
It's pretty much gone.
it's gone.
Well, yeah, because I mean RW is sidelined from the stroke, and Charlie is passed, and yeah, we just kind of packed it in after about 1.5 years after that.
You mentioned something that was curious to me about having a guitar player who is experienced playing with a harmonica player fronting
Yeah.
the band.
That's crucial.
What's specific about having a harmonica player lead the band affects the other players?
Well, you've got to have people that are aware of the kind of language on the guitar that needs to be played with a harmonica.
So is that filling what
well,
you're doing?
It has to do really with the accompaniment. There's a certain kind of combination of bass lines that the guitar has to play, coupled with chords, certain kinds of chords and rhythms, and there's just this whole kind of vernacular of how you play when back a harmonica player. And it really comes out of really the old timers styles of playing. In other words, you know, guys like Robert Jr. Lockwood that played with both Sonny Boy Williamson and Little Walter. He was a real, you know, proponent of that kind of guitar playing. You had guys like Louis Myers on guitar, or Dave Myers from the Aces who played with Little Walter. You had Luther Tucker, who was a student of Robert Jr. Lockwood's. These guys in Chicago that played on all the Chess recordings, and they were really the studio guys at Chess. So they really knew how to play behind, especially harmonica players, but they could play behind anybody.
Right.
Saxophone players, piano players, any kind of vocalist. I mean, they knew how to play all that stuff. But the bottom line is, it was a certain style that you had to be able to play. Jimmy Reed and Eddie Taylor had this simpatico guitar thing. You know, Luther Tucker and Robert Jr. together, Dave Myers and Louis Myers, Muddy Waters and Jimmy Rogers. All of these guys had this style that was very interlocking guitars. And that's really what it's all about, is there's an interlocking guitar thing that has to happen. And that's where, you know, guys like Charlie and Anson really knew how to play that. Bob Welsh and Rusty Zinn know how to play that. When Harmon had Hollywood Fats and Kid Ramos, they knew how to do that. All these West Coast guys kind of have become real familiar with that Chicago interlocking guitar thing. So it's really, really important to playing with a harmonica.
Well, in your tours in Europe, so you have European players over there that you have played with, but their influences are U.S. blues guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you notice a difference when you're playing with those guys versus guys here?
Well, I mean, they're not quite as accomplished as the guys here. I can say that because, I mean, guys like Junior are really kind of the idols of most of the European guys, you know, Junior or Charlie or Anson. All those guys are kind of the idols of a lot of the European guitar players. You know, Alex Schultz lives over there, so he's become a real influence on a lot of those guys. But, you know, I mean, when I did, for example, the thing in England, I think it was last year or the year before, whenever that was, I had guitar player, a guy named Lewis Fielding, and he played guitar, and he was really up on he plays with his fingers, so he was real up on playing Jimmy Reed and Eddie Taylor stuff and T-Bone Walker and all the things that all the guys over here know how to do. Or these Italian guys I played with this year, you know.
Is that something you pay attention to, whether he's a finger plucker or a pick? Does that make a difference to you?
It's more just the style they play.
Style.
It's either one is okay, but generally if a guy plays with his fingers, he's usually pretty deep.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that says.
So he can step in
Yeah.
and quickly
There's a depth.
make adjustments.
I noticed watching Steve Freund the other day just how much he uses his fingers, and it's like, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, because I play guitar, I'm starting to pick up on those things so much more from, you know, playing the guitar now off and on for a lot of years. But, I mean, that's something, I mean, it's kind of what got me interested in the guitar in the first place was I wanted to be able to go, hey, if you don't know this lick, let me show you this. And that was what got me playing the guitar, because I wanted guys to have an idea of what it was that I needed to hear behind me. You know, otherwise it's really hard to describe what you're doing.
When you're writing a song, the age-old question, music or lyrics first?
Depends. I mean, God, in general, I would say lyrics seem to be the first.
And then when you're gonna support,
and then a lot of times, I mean, the way that works is you go in the studio sometimes. I mean, on the last album, Randy Bermudes came up with a line that worked really good as an intro, or Billy Flynn came in with some kind of line that worked really cool on the guitar for Mr. Two-Thirds, or, there's a lot of things that get added in the mix as you're doing it.
But as you're writing the lyrics, is a melody forming in your head?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
is that melody a harmonica melody? Is it
It's
a
vocal.
guitar? It's
vocal and guitar.
Okay.
And usually the main thing I use guitar for is writing.
Okay.
That's really the.
So you write with the guitar.
I write with the guitar all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
And I've been doing that since I first started writing. Because that's the only way you can really instruct somebody. Hey, these are the changes. This is how it goes.
Right. Because the harmonica is not a
You can't play
melodic,
chords on it.
Yeah, not the chord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't play chords on it.
Right.
So, that's not to say you can't play a melody on a harp, because you can.
Mm-hmm.
But to really get a song across and teach it to a group, you kind of have to know how to speak the language of instruction. That's the best way to put it.
So True Believer has. Do you remember the names of the songs on True Believer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what do we have on True Believer?
Well, the first song's one called High Time for the Devil. It's the song I wrote with Phil Marsh. I started it, I think, and then me and him started working on it. I eventually honed it down where I wanted it to go. It's definitely one of the most political songs on the album, next to maybe Elvin's What the Hell. This is one of those things that gets a little touchy, because I've even seen reviews where the guys go, he starts off with a political number, which I generally don't even listen to, and I've had that happen on my last 2 records for sure, where, they were already put off when I said something about politics. But what can I say? I'm a lefty, it's like, that's who I am. And it's kind of like, you don't look at my page and go, this guy's a Republican.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's why I have like alternate Facebook pages.
Yeah.
I have 3 other music pages that are strictly music.
Right. Right. Because that's important. I mean, it's sad, but we're getting to a point where we won't necessarily their political beliefs may impact our feeling about their music
and your sales. Yes, it can really impact your sales. And to be honest with you, I was really in a hurry to put this record out, because I finished it in the spring, and I was like, I didn't want to wait around for some record company to go, well, we can release it next year. So I just went ahead and released it myself, because I was really in a hurry to get this out before the election. And so that's why I opened with that song. I had Oscar sing it, Oscar Wilson from the Cashbox Kings, who I knew was on the same page as me politically. He even inserts his little bingo thing that he used to say every time I'd put up a post, like he'd go bingo, so I had him insert that. But it really came out beautiful. I mean, the sound of the song is just pure Chicago blues.
It's high time for the devil out to cast his wicked spell.
He's an
I hadn't
awesome
seen
singer.
him until you guys were playing Berkeley,
Yeah,
and
he's awesome.
It is something. I mean, he is something on stage to see, to witness. As is Joe Beard.
And Joe Beard too. Those two together are really, they're a great combination, which is why I brought them both out.
Yeah.
And they became good friends. And I want, I wanted to have them each on a song, because I just figured it was a nice bookend to the album to have them. And this is the thing that I should talk about. Being a white guy playing blues and singing blues is like, man, it's hard not to get intimidated when you get some guys that are heavy blues singers to come out and play on your album. It's like, to follow that, you're kind of like, well, is this going to be a bad, ending for me? you just kind of, it's hard not to second guess yourself a little bit and go, how's this going to come off? But, all in all, I kind of looked at it like, well, I'm doing songs that I wrote on it, or songs of RW's that he wrote, or, whatever. And, and just figured, well, it's a personal thing. When you write a song, it's a personal thing. And when you're going to do somebody else's song, it needs to be a song that you really can relate to. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do a song on there that I didn't relate to.
How does it feel? I mean, you've been doing this now 40 plus years.
Yeah, 54 years.
Yeah, so you're well established. You know virtually everybody. And you talk about being intimidated by Oscar or Joe.
Well, yeah, because they're the real deal all the way.
So it's so you still don't feel like you're.
Oh, I feel like I'm in it, but I don't have. I look at myself like I've learned to sing over the years. I was not a born singer. That's how I look at it. I was not a born singer. Though, somebody like Joe is a born singer. Oscar is a born singer. Those guys, they had that voice from the very beginning. Certainly Oscar can sing anything.
But then you feel like...
I don't have the kind of... No, I would say the same thing about somebody like Curtis Salgado. He's a born singer. These guys, they just have that... They have that gene that just... I don't know if it's from... being born into a musical family or getting lessons when they were kids, or my friend Barbara Dane, she took lessons when she was a teenager, and it was like, she learned how to sing bel canto.
Yeah.
And if you learn to sing bel canto, you're singing completely from, from your feet up and in your stomach, and it's like, that's a real special way to learn to sing. You can fill the room with your voice.
And not damage your voice.
Now, I know I don't damage my voice because I can sing 13 nights in a row. If I wasn't singing properly, there's no way I'd be able to do that. So I got to that point a long time ago because I took lessons to learn how to sing properly. But yeah, I don't look at it like I have, the gift, that certain people have. There's some people that are just born singers. Right. I look at it like I'm somebody that learned to sing over time. Right. And Sugar Ray, phenomenal singer.
But listening to you and the way you play harp.
Well, that's the other thing.
To me, that is your singing.
That's my singing.
That's your singing.
Yes, that is my singing.
It is so expressive.
Yes,
it is
my singing.
Intensely, you're so focused and you're in it.
Right.
You're in it more than anyone else I've ever seen be in it.
Right. But here's the funny thing about that is that can be a blessing and a curse. It can be a curse in the sense that people are always going to compare your vocal to your harmonica playing. And that's where it gets a little iffy, because nowadays people want your voice to be as good or better than your harmonica playing. So if you're like the best harmonica player, people want you to be the best singer as well.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where it's kind of like, it sort of becomes a little bit of a weird thing. The way I look at it is, look at all the people out there that kind of came up as instrumentalists and then learned to sing. Eric Clapton he sang and he became a good singer. But it was like he didn't just jump out of, the womb as a great singer.
Right. He didn't start as Rod Stewart.
Yeah, exactly. Or Peter Green is one of my favorite singers, but he doesn't have some kind of he didn't have a golden throat, but he sure knew how to sing.
And there's people that are specifically good for a genre.
Right.
And some people you might
Bobby
say...
Bland, Bobby Bland's or B.B. King. Those guys were like born singers. They were born singers. You listen to what they do and it's like just so, it rolls out of them,
It's like the music turns into words with guys like that.
Yeah. But what I've discovered over the years about singing is it's really about being able to get into the song. It's about putting yourself into those lyrics and understanding what the lyrics mean, and then being able to get that out to the public.
Right.
You have to understand the song, and that's why, to me, it's kind of hard for me to listen to some really young kid sing about lost love when they're 13 years old. They haven't had their kid taken away from them, or their house, or their car, or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, they really don't quite get
it's
where
just it's a different person they have to sit with in the
you
cafeteria.
know, and it's
at
like, I
school.
mean, you know, I know what I've been through, and most blues singers really know what they've been through. So it's kind of like, you know, it's a real different thing once you've. I mean, there's songs I've been singing for 40 years, and the songs have come true on my ass. They have.
Wow.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you start going, wow. You know, midway through your life, you go, now I know what that song is about.
All of a sudden you're psychic. I wrote this 20 years ago, and here it is.
Well, it wasn't even a thing that I wrote. I'm talking about things that other people wrote. You know, you didn't get them right away.
Yeah.
But
the power of music. That's
Yeah,
the power of music.
it is,
You know,
yeah.
even more than film, even more than books, music has a feeling and an emotion that those others don't.
Yeah.
You're absorbing those where you're visually seeing things where music you're actually absorbing with your whole body.
yeah.
It's a very different experience.
The other thing that's real interesting is people don't even have to talk if they sing. You know what I'm saying? People or play. People feel like they know you just listening to you do what you do. They do. I really believe that. I think people feel like, you know, the person almost doesn't have to say anything for people to feel that way.
Right.
You know?
Which is sometimes a shock when you meet them and you're like, well, you are nothing like what you said. You are nothing like that.
There's a whole bunch of that out there.
There's a whole bunch of that.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, we've all got
I try to put that aside though.
We've all got
There's a
it.
part of me that tries to go, well, they're great artists, so
Yeah.
we'll
well,
live with it.
in the film world, there's a few people I've run into that I was like, yeah, you don't really want to meet your
Right,
heroes,
your
right?
idols.
Yeah,
That's what they
just-
always say. Yeah.
Yeah, I've really come to, even if I've had the opportunity to meet people, I've like declined. Like, you know, I really admire their work and I really want to continue to admire their work.
Right.
I don't need to know what makes that work. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's,
Us human beings are a complicated lot.
though I did meet Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson was a wonderful, wonderful guy.
That's cool.
He was terrific.
Yeah.
And that's not the experience of everybody. So,
Right.
you know, but we're all human. I have bad days.
And
Everybody
that-
has bad.
yeah,
And if you
that's-
catch a celebrity on the wrong day, or
Yeah.
they've just, or like you did a tour recently where you played, 15 nights and 16 days from
Yeah.
California to
Yeah.
Florida.
I do that kind of stuff all the time.
So if I caught you
Yeah.
in the middle of that and caught you
Right.
on the street and go, hey, Mark, I was like, you're probably not going to be.
Well, the other thing is when people want to talk to you right before a show, people don't realize that when you're a performer, a lot of times you're focusing on what you're going to do, and you're not really in social
Small talk.
small talk world at that point.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, somebody might say something on Facebook like, hey, you were a jerk to me back then, or whatever, you know, it's like, sorry, but, you know, I'm a human.
Yeah, now you're being a jerk
Yeah.
to me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we're even now.
Right.
All right, so the True Believer album is doing very well.
Yeah, it's number 2 on Living Blues at the moment. I guess for July and August, I think. It's up to number 2, so that's nice.
And where can we get it?
And you can get it online. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it off my site. It'll be available on Apple and Spotify and all that in the next couple weeks. So, yeah, it's you can definitely get it at my gigs.
Good.
And
But there's a digital download available.
well, it's supposed to be happening in the
It's
next
happening,
couple
yeah.
weeks.
But
yeah.
it's going to be.
It's going to be happening.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by the time this is out there, there's a good chance.
It better be.
Yeah,
Because I've been waiting for 5 weeks.
So I'm still curious about the recording process, and you went back in with Billy Flynn.
Billy Flynn, yeah.
How is the vibe different with Billy than with Junior?
Well, Junior is, he's super creative, but he's kind of, you know, he kind of can be jagged in a way when he's kind of formulating ideas or whatever. So he's very experimental sometimes. He never plays anything the same way twice. That is He does not do that. But he's got a phenomenal way of finding what needs to be done in the song that gives it a power. And that's what I love about playing with Junior, is that, you know, if I do, like when I did that Otis Rush song, man, he just nailed that sound. To me, he just absolutely nailed it. And same with, you know, if we did something like the Toddle, and he got this, you know, Luther Tucker kind of thing going on it, and really just there's a certain facility that he's got, and an awareness of what the part is supposed to be, that he's really unbelievable at being able to get.
And fully entrenched in West Coast blues.
Well, in all kinds of blues.
Right. But
He can play everything from, like, you know, I mean, he can play everything from Bill Jennings, who's one of his idols, to Robert Jr. Lockwood, to Otis Rush, to B.B. King, to, you know, Guitar Slim, to, you know, Lightning Hopkins. It doesn't matter.
And Billy Flynn, when he comes in...
And Billy's the same way, but he's in a different way.
And he's from Minnesota.
He's from Minnesota, but he's almost from, well, he's from Milwaukee, but he's almost like, they call him like the guitar technician or something, the blues professor. I don't remember. He's got some kind of moniker, but he's just amazing. He's kind of like what Duke Robillard is with jazz and swing and West Coast jump music. That's kind of what Billy is with Chicago blues. He's just phenomenal at being able to get inside of all those styles and do something. And he's much more. He's got just his approach is super subtle, what he does, but it's really right on.
And having known you now for a while, I know that harmony is an important thing when you're going to be on the road and in bands and whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So how do you weigh talent versus being able to be on the road with someone for 3 weeks?
You almost have to weigh the being on the road for 3 weeks first, but you also have to have the talent.
Right.
So it's a hard one. I mean, it's a difficult one, but, you know, I mean, I just find you have to kind of approach people where they want to do what it is you're trying to get them to do. You know, in other words, you gotta make sure. I mean, you know, when I approached Junior about doing these tours this year, it was like he had just so many things in his life that were up in the air. You know, we both kind of went, maybe it's not a good idea, you know, and we didn't. Because, and I got Anson to take all those jobs, because, you know, his mom was in rough shape, and you know, he was just kind of up in the air. And so you don't want to try to convince somebody to do something they're not sure they want to do.
And how different is it when you walk on stage with somebody who you haven't played with before versus somebody like Anson? Is there some apprehension, or?
No, if I know what they do, I'm fine. I mean, I don't think I'd want to meet somebody sight unseen and have no idea as to what they do. I mean, I played with those guys in Rome, and I'd never played with them. They did great. And we'd never played together, but I watched some videos of them, and that's when I agreed to.
So you can find out where they are, and then somehow fit
and they
into,
did great. Yeah. They did a fabulous job. I'd love to do some more stuff with them. So yeah, you have to be able to kind of feel out what the abilities are of people if you're going to hire them, you know, and you have to sometimes, you know, do a little investigating and go, you know, what's this guy like to be on the road with?
Well, and because you know so many people, it's probably it doesn't take too many phone calls to find somebody who also knows that guy.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, I've been like that my entire career, where it's like I can call up friends and go, what's this club like? You know, what's this club pay? What is this guy like at this festival? You know, what's this musician like? I mean, in other words, I can get some kind of gauge on everything. Just because I know people in all these different parts of the area of the world and country.
Well, that helps me segue, because I've heard you talk about this, the state of blues festivals now.
Well, it's kind of strange. I never thought it would get to the point where you go, is there going to be anybody else on this festival that even does anything close to what it is we're doing? Mm-hmm. And that can be the case nowadays with what I do and what Anson does or what Junior does and who's playing on the festival. So it's kind of odd. I mean, we're playing the next festivals I'm doing one in Louisiana in New Orleans, the Crescent City Blues Festival, which has a number of blues acts on it. I noticed a lot of other people that I knew, Mitch Woods and Sue Foley and a number of other more traditional type acts on it, Kenny Neal. And then, you know, this one we're doing in Denmark, the Blues Heaven Festival, and they have a bunch of people I know, Nick Moss and Dennis Grunling and the Cashbox Kings with Oscar. This guy Young Rail is on it. There are a number of other acts I saw on it that I knew. So I know those are going to be exciting festivals to play on because, you know, we got a lot of compadres on it. But, you know, sometimes, I mean, we played a couple festivals on the last tour, you know, where it was like, we're just going, wow, is this this is a blues festival? Because it sounded more like Allman Brothers and you know,
Southern rock kind of.
Yeah, Southern rock kind of things. Yeah.
Blues in its deep bass, but not.
Yeah, and that's kind of become the norm. What I was telling a guy the other day that did an interview with me is, you know, when you look over these festivals, you see basically the same 50 acts on festivals worldwide. I mean, it's just how it is, and it's the same acts, and you realize that's the bookers. It's the agents. The booking agents, there's like 4 or 5 agencies, and they get their acts on every single festival. It's almost like the festivals are too lazy to do any homework about what's out there. And so that's why when there is a festival, you know, the Redwood Coast Music Festival, he gets all kinds of people that people don't know, but they're great, you know. You know, Joel Patterson on guitar, Duke Robillard on guitar, Kid Ramos, all these great players. Steve Freund's on the one coming up. You know, I mean, that's an unusual festival to have a festival where that kind of thing is going on. You know, that they're willing to stick their neck out and actually bring in some talent that's not the run of the mill. But unfortunately, a lot of people are not willing to take any chances, and I don't know if it's that they just get, you know, caroused into it by the agents, or if they're just not aware of what's blues and what's not blues.
Right.
I mean, one of the things I always hear is, we need young people. I'm sorry, man, but half the time there aren't young people.
Right.
3/4 of the time there aren't young people. It's all people our age.
Well, and
You know.
it's a lot of it, of music venues, even with younger bands,
Yeah.
young people don't go to concerts.
They don't seem to go to
necessarily.
concerts.
I
I
mean,
mean,
watch it on their phone.
it's really a
different-
bizarre
right,
thing.
It's
you know,
a different way they consume music.
Yeah, there's all these young blues players that I know, and they still get the people in the wheelchairs showing up. So it's like, you know, where's the young audience they're talking about?
Right.
You know,
Right.
maybe there is. I mean, there's North Mississippi All Stars. Maybe they have a young audience. Maybe Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks do, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I really don't. I mean, you know, so I'm not quite sure where the young people that a lot of the festivals are talking about are.
Well, I've been hearing things where the polls say the young people, their attention span's so small. It's
Well,
like if it's
here's
not on
an
TikTok
interesting
for a minute.
here's an interesting one. Deetra Farr told me that the reason she retired was cell phones. So many people sticking their cell phone up and watching the entire show on their cell phone instead of being there in the moment. You're in a nightclub. You're in front of the artist. Wouldn't you want to use your ears and
Right.
your eyes to watch that
And
show?
that was my point of watching something on film versus experiencing it
Right.
live.
Yeah.
And
I love TV and movies, but
I do
I don't
too.
want to watch my world through that.
no, but if I'm going to talk about something that I've seen historically, it's usually a concert and
Yeah.
not a movie. I can remember concerts from 1976.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what movies I was going to in 1976.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I certainly remember my concerts. Now, here's an interesting one that I thought about was a lot of times I would only go see an artist 1 or 2 times. And I think about it now and I think, God, how can I expect people to come back and see me month after month or year after year when I only went to go see somebody once or twice that was a great artist that I idolized?
Well,
you know, so I mean, you kind of go, well,
I think
what does that mean?
I think I covered that earlier in that you never do the same set twice. So that's why before I knew you, I'd been watching you and going to shows of yours for 20 years or longer.
Right.
You know, way back to the 70s in the Rio and Rodeo and
wow.
You know, way back then.
Yeah.
So I've seen you maybe hundreds of times. But I can't say that you play the same show twice.
Right.
You know, and that when you would play the monthly gigs that I would go to every month.
That's always been really important.
That was
to me.
always a different gig.
Yeah.
It was always a different show.
Well, and that's how come in a way I'm not crying about not having a regular steady group that's always the same people. Because in a lot of ways I don't want that right now. I enjoy having the new energy moving from player to player, and I've got a pool of players. It's such a good pool of players that it leaves me nothing to worry about. I can rehearse once with the guys and we got a show that's going to go for a long time, and that's a great thing.
One of these bands that you've been putting together, each and every one of those players has fans of their own.
Right.
You know, Junior has his fans that are going to come.
Exactly.
Anson has his. I mean, you're exposing everybody to each other's music. Which
That's
is really
that's really my effort is to, you know, I mean, I'm doing a big show at the end of the year on the 29th of November at SF Jazz. I'm doing a blues blowout, and I've got Junior on guitar. I've got Anson Funderburgh on guitar. I've got, you know, Kedar Roy on bass, Bob Welsh on keys, Wes Starr on drums, and then I've got 2 great singers, Oscar Wilson from the Cashbox Kings and Diuna Greenleaf, who is also on one of my podcasts, who's just a fabulous singer.
Every one of those people is on our podcast. There's an episode with everyone, and I would highly recommend you go do a deep dive for those folks, because that is... Some of those stories are just mind-blowing that you're going to hear.
Yeah. Well, somebody like Diuna, I mean, she's like such a deep singer, man. She can sing gospel, she can sing blues, but she can sing blues on a level that very few other women singers can sing it on. You know, it's sort of like similar to Lady Bianca, who can, you know, emulate Billie Holiday or you know, Dinah Washington. I mean, when you can do that, that's like serious stuff.
Yeah, look her up, because we did an episode with her recently, and she did some of those. I don't want to call them impersonations because they're more like inspirations, but if you closed your eyes, you would not be able to tell this was not Billie Holiday. She was phenomenal.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. She's phenomenal. And Diuna's the same thing, you know, and these are people that have all, you know, won awards. They've won blues awards, and you know, you're talking the cream of the crop of blues people, and that's really what I want to do. Is I want to promote the people that to me are kind of a bit unsung, but at the same time just boatloads of talent. I mean, you know, guys like Oscar or Joe Beard or Junior, Anson, Steve Freund. All these people are just. They're just stacked with talent, man. They've got so much talent.
So much experience. So much stuff coming through.
Yeah.
So do you have one road story?
Well,
from the recent tour.
My last one was where the radiator blew up on us coming from Long Island going to Rochester, New York, or Lima, New York. And we were right outside of the city about an hour, and all of a sudden, we see this spray on the windshield. And the next thing, the temperature gauge just goes all the way up, and we have to pull over, and the steam's coming out of the radiator, and we're on the side of I-85, and it was like, you know, I called AAA right away. We waited for AAA for a while. Eventually, I got an Uber because the tow truck driver couldn't fit all three of us in the front of the truck, so I had to get an Uber to bring us over to the garage he was meeting us at. We get to the garage. The garage is right next to a Midas muffler, which is where I thought he was taking us. And I realized as soon as I got that they don't even do transmissions. Well, he's right next to an auto shop that did transmissions and radiators and everything else. And the guy was a friend of musicians. He started asking me about people. Do you know Slam Allen from James Cotton's band? Yeah, I know him, you know. And so he was immediately receptive to helping us out and said, I can get it done in a couple hours. I said, we don't have a couple hours. We have a gig we have to get to and that's 4 hours away. He goes, well, there's a rental car place down here. They just happen to have a minivan, which they never have, which is what this guy told me. So we get the minivan, we get our equipment, stick it in the minivan, drive to Lima, New York, and we're an hour late to the show, and we played the show.
Huh.
So
So true rock stars rolling in an hour late.
it was just crazy, yeah. And then on the way back, we ended up with this, like, we went some long-ass way to get to the next gig, which was in, I think, Bowie, Maryland, and then I was so tired, I almost ran into somebody's car, because I'd been driving for like 6 hours, and the bass player went, well, look out, you know? So anyway, it was a pretty crazy situation.
So do you still love it? You love being on stage?
I love being on stage. I've always loved being on stage. The hardest part is just the grind.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part is just being on the road, different town every day, not necessarily good meals. Your nutrition goes way down. Your exercise goes way down. Getting your rest. You got to get the rest to be able to do what you do. But once you hit the stage, everyone's firing on all cylinders. It's always been like that. And I never get tired of that part of it. The only thing I get tired of is just the grind of being on the road, you know, having a 6-hour drive when you're my age and older, and we're all up there. I mean, everybody in the band is in their late 60s, early 70s. You know, it's hard work doing it, you know.
But a testament to the people who want to do that. Want to keep
Well,
doing it.
it's what the old guys did.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. I mean,
Yeah.
all the old guys, they played into their 80s, if anything.
I recently, 2 weeks ago, saw John Fogerty and George Thorogood. George Thorogood's 74.
Right.
John Fogerty's 79.
Yeah.
These guys look like they were 25.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got to stay in good physical condition.
When they walked on the stage, they were just,
Yeah.
they loved it. You could tell they loved what they were doing.
That's what you got to be.
Yeah.
You got to love what you're doing. That's the number one prerequisite
Yeah.
for doing this for a living, is you better love it. And the interesting thing about the interviews for me is that whenever I do these interviews, I really do enjoy doing these, Jeff. People go right back to the beginning. It's the automatic place that I always start at the beginning, and I find people tend to stay in that very beginning of how they discovered music and what made them love the music. And that, to me, is really a fascinating thing. To find that that's the commonality of all the interviews.
Right. Even if they're the most difficult person ever, they still love the music.
Yeah.
And
Or even if
you can deal with.
even if they're the biggest rock star in the world, they go back to those early times and they seem to dwell. I think most people dwell in the voyage of getting there. You know, what it was like getting there. That's the interesting part. I mean, when I talk to Magic Dick about, you know, the early days and how hard they worked, that's the thing you can tell people are really still very proud of.
Well, that's how you find out if you love it. That's
Yeah.
how you find out who loves it and who doesn't.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who are off on
People
other careers.
fall by the wayside.
Right. Mike Judge, who was in your band,
Yeah.
couldn't
yeah.
handle it and decided to go become a television producer.
Well, I mean, you know, I don't blame him because
No,
I mean,
I'm
you know, well, I mean, you know, he did it a good 8 years, something like that, you
Right.
know, and it's like, you know, but I think he kind of fell into the whole animation thing
Right.
and producing, and that was what he found he wanted to do.
Well, he's a very talented guy.
And he does great stuff
Does
with the
great
Tales of the,
stuff.
what is it, Tales of the Road or something. whatever that show is, that cartoon
He's
show.
got
It's
a new
just incredible.
Beavis and Butthead is back. They're
Is
doing
it?
new
Yeah.
episodes, which is funny because
That's
they have
awesome.
them and then they have them as old men.
That's great.
And they're doing the same thing. They're just old men.
Yeah,
It's-
I actually got him in Anson's band. Anson called me up. Yeah.
That's right. He played. I have.
Played with me for a year, and then he ended up moving
Yeah. I have.
moving to Albuquerque.
I have
or
an Anson
someplace.
Funderburgh
Yeah,
record that he's on.
he plays on.
And
yeah.
I haven't looked to see if Wes is on that one or not.
No, Wes and him never recorded together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wes is on the very first one and the last two. That's what he's on. And Judge was right in the middle. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we want to cover?
You know, just people need to remember that live music is where it's at. It's not canned music. It's not watching it on a video. It's seeing it live and
It's
experiencing the power of the music.
And experiencing it with other people.
Right.
You know,
It's a communal thing.
how many times have I watched videos on YouTube and someone else is watching it's a reaction video or something, and they're looking at the crowd and they keep saying, "Boy, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
I wish I was in that crowd." And growing up going to Days on the Green and these festivals, these big groups, there is something that supercharges the entire environment.
Yeah.
Even if the band is 300 yards away and in those days without a video screen,
Yeah.
it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you were just in it because the people around you were in it. It's just this common community. And
I
music
love
is
the
there.
small rooms, though.
Yeah. Oh, the small
I
rooms.
have to say,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I play festivals, you know, and I play bigger rooms, and I'm not saying I don't like playing bigger rooms, but there's really something magical about playing at a club like Moe's Alley or, you know, Armando's when it was there, or the back room in Berkeley,
Back room, yeah.
wherever, you know, because there's something about that really small, you know, kind of, it does supercharge it in a way to have the music that close to the people.
Does it help that you can see faces?
Yeah, that really
Yeah.
makes a difference. I mean, the hardest thing for me is playing festivals where there's like 300 feet, you know, of fence,
Yeah.
and then everyone's over there. And I
Right.
mean, when we played this one back east, you know, not long ago, it was like kind of weird. It was kind of, it took some getting used
To
to.
find the connection to the
Yeah,
audience.
took
To
some
see if
getting used
it,
to.
you know, where you're going to go next. If
Yeah.
they're going to,
Yeah,
if you need to change the set list. If the audience, it's hard to tell if they're too
Yeah.
big, right?
yeah, it can be odd.
Right. So you just have to play Stormy Monday and get them all back.
No,
Shit.
that ain't gonna happen.
All right, Mark, that was terrific. And
Thank you, Jeff.
I appreciate you coming
it,
by the
man.
studio and getting this done. So
Yeah,
check out everybody on the interviews that Mark's done with everybody we talked about today, and do a deep dive into who they are, because if you watch these interviews and you find out what Kid Anderson's talking about, what Wes Starr talking about, playing for Tiny Tim,
Right.
playing for Asleep at the Wheel, and playing with Jimmy Page, and it's phenomenal stuff. And we
Yeah.
have Peter Alban on there talking about Janis Joplin. I mean, we've got, I think,
Magic Dick
Magic
talking
Dick
about
talking about Jay
about,
Giles.
yeah, talking about hanging out with Ahmet Ertegun. Yeah,
Or Lee Oscar talking about hitting San Francisco, getting invited to a party, and it was a Black Panthers party.
right.
I mean, fantastic stuff.
Right.
So we hope you enjoyed today, and look for us soon. And hit like and subscribe. Please share these episodes with your friends. We're trying to build an audience here and try to build a blues community for what we're doing here. And Mark is just terrific at really bringing the history and the people. It's just a thrill to be able to do this with him. So we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.